In 2026, F1 will continue to use 1.6-litre turbocharged V6, but electrical power will be increased to achieve a 50-50 split between the hybrid and internal combustion engines. However, the nature of the engine laws necessitates that the chassis restrictions be extensive, since the sport seeks to include movable and dynamic aerodynamics to guarantee that the vehicle's overall performance is not compromised. However, because those rules have not yet been finalized, recent simulator sessions have indicated that the cars might be extremely unstable with only active rear wings, requiring a more complex front and rear wing arrangement. With only 20 months till 2026, the regulations have not yet been finalized. Speaking on the Sky F1 podcast this week, Karan Chandhok and Martin Brundle voiced worry that the teams don't yet know what they're supposed to be working with, and that the regulations themselves might be a move in the wrong way. Well, first of all, the regulations haven't fully been defined yet. What we do know is that the internal combustion engine, the amount of power from that will be reduced compared to the battery, Chandhok said. F1 has been hybrid since 2014. The amount of hybrid power from the electric side is going to be now equal to the amount of power from the ICE, so 50-50, which is a big change to the power unit side. The scenario regarding the rules is peculiar. Typically, chassis restrictions are implemented first, with engines playing little role. However, Chandhok pointed out that in this case, engine requirements influence the chassis standard. I think this is the first time I could recall where the chassis rules are being dictated by the engine rules, he said. We've been used to, in the last 75 years of the World Championship, the engine is the engine, it is whatever it is, plugged into the back of the regulations designed for the chassis, with aero, wings, and active suspension coming and going and all that sort of stuff. But this is the first time where the PU rules have been defined, and then they've gone, oh, hang on a second, we're going to have to adapt the chassis rules to make sure that the cars aren't lifting and coasting halfway down the straight. So there's still a lot to be defined. Brundle concurred with his colleague broadcaster, stating that the chores facing the teams at this stage are piling up, with no clear path or recommendations on how to proceed. You have to be really concerned about this, because here we are, 22 months away from these cars running, and it's not defined, he said. It's going to have active aerodynamics as well, with a lot more wing movement than we currently see with the DRS drag reduction system, and a lot more battery power. So the cars are probably going to be heavier and more complex. They've got to get the harvesting and deployment sorted out. It feels to me like these regulations should have been cast in stone a good year or so ago. The new automobiles will have adjustable aero to boost car performance and match the features of the new turbo hybrid engines, which have a 50-50 power split between the internal combustion engine and the battery. The idea is that the car's wings will be able to function in a high downforce configuration in corners to assist supply grip, and then convert to a low drag configuration on the straights to aid improved straight line speed. One possibility under consideration was to make only the rear wing movable, since this would allow it to work flawlessly with DRS while being the least complicated alternative. According to those who tested the new model, when the rear wing was in its lowest drag configuration and the engine was at full power, the car was nearly undrivable, with many instances of drivers spinning on straights, while accelerating or being unable to handle a small curve without the rear stepping out. This was driven by an estimated threefold increase in aero balance compared to what is currently observed when DRS is turned on. One source even stated that the only way to avoid the cars from spinning was to drive so cautiously that lap times would be slower than modern Formula 2 machines. As work continues to modify the aerodynamic regulations before the end of June, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner expressed appreciation to the FIA for listening to the team's concerns about what they were learning. He famously warned last year that F1 might wind up with Frankenstein cars because chassis rules must accommodate the choice of power unit. I think there's been some good progression, Horner said. I think that the FIA have taken on board some of the feedback and some alterations have been made. We're waiting for the chassis regulations, which will be a fundamental part of the 2026 package now, and how that interacts with these power units. The various working groups are working hard on that, and it's important that we conclude something in the near future. Asked if the simulator findings from teams had been a cause for concern, Horner said, "The rules are the same for everybody at the end of the day. So it's how you apply them and translate them. I don't think we're afraid of whatever the rules will be, as it's the same starting point for everybody." When they're finalized, that's when we'll no doubt discover whatever issues there are with the rules, but that's no different to any other regulation change. A message of environmental sustainability also aligns with the automotive conglomerate's needs, as F1 will transition to entirely sustainable fuel while expanding the electrical deployment of the hybrid engine by up to 50%, equal to $350 kilowatts. Financial sustainability will be maintained by the installation of a powertrain cost cap. The top statistics are till 2025, with a cost cap of $95 million, rising to $130 million in 2026, excluding marketing, current generation PU activities, and customer team supplies. Financial fines and minor sporting penalties will be used to enforce lesser infractions of the limitation, while more severe offences will result in championship point deductions. The fourth designated pillar of the new regulations is that they be attractive to new power unit manufacturers. On the WMSC ratification of the new rules, FIA President Sulayem said, "The FIA continues to push forward on innovation and sustainability across our entire motorsport portfolio. The 2026 Formula One power unit regulations are the most high-profile example of that mission. The introduction of advanced PU technology along with synthetic sustainable fuels aligns with our objective of delivering benefits for road car users and meeting our objective of net zero carbon by 2030. Formula One is currently enjoying immense growth, and we are confident these regulations will build on the excitement our 2022 changes have produced. I want to thank all of the FIA management and technical staff involved in this process for their diligence and commitment in working together with all of our Formula One stakeholders to deliver this. I also want to thank our WMSC members for their consideration and approval of these regulations. While the FIA claims to be delighted with the weight characteristics found in simulations from the 2026 vehicles, it concedes that some type of overtaking aid is necessary. To that goal, the drag reduction technology is anticipated to be preserved, coupled with extra active aerodynamics that alter the front and rear wing settings on the straight. But this is insufficient given the characteristics of the 2026 vehicles. The issue is that by putting more efficient vehicles on the straight, they will have such low drag and be able to drive at such high speeds that overtaking will become more impossible. The FIA believes that the drag characteristics of the 2026 vehicles will still create a fair tow effect, but the DRS influence will be lessened compared to what it is now. There will be, in all likelihood, some form of the DRS, FIA single-seater director Nicholas Tombazis said. But we need to have between either aerodynamics or engine, some form of assist for overtaking. As much as we would rather have none of that and have cars just able to be nose to tail and attack each other and so on, and that is the ultimate aim, we also don't want to have to be in a situation where we find they can't overtake and cars will basically never be able to attack each other. We definitely can't risk to get in that position. What do you think? Will the new cars be better with the new upgrades, or are the actual cars just fine? Let us know in the comments down below.